Moneymakers, welcome to this channel. My name is Paul Du Plessis, aka the EMS guy. In today's video, we're going to talk about the national government, but have a focus on the budget. Now, this is the second part of our two-part video series, and we're focusing on the expenditure as well as the influence on society. So make sure you're tuned, make sure you like and subscribe, and let's dig in. Okay, income check, expenses check. Did you double check if the total expenses are correct? Thank you. How's the income looking? Okay, it's on par, check. Shifters, welcome back. As you remember in our previous video, we talked about the national budget, the income, the expenses, what happens if there's an imbalance, and today we're concluding with this second video. So thank you for joining. So the government started in 1994 when they took over, all right? And they said, let us redress this economy. So they started with legislation. But the government couldn't just overnight implement everything. So it took time. And as the economy grew, they said, listen, our expenditure needs to change. And we need to make sure that South African lives are changed and impacted. We need to provide people that don't have houses with houses. We need to provide them with electricity, running water. We need to make sure that there's education available to everyone. We need to make sure that there's hospitals, clinics available. And then they said, let's adjust our budget. How can we help the poor that do not have work? How can we help the unemployed? What can we do to alleviate it by not just making laws and legislation, but how can we help? And that's where the government really stepped in and did it. But with that came a lot of challenges. Let's take Eskom for example. They were geared up to serve X amount of people with electricity, right? And now with this plan of the government, they said, how are we going to service this whole new group, which expanded exponentially? So in that, they said, let's budget for new facilities. Let's invest in renewable energy. Let's make sure that there's more lines and there's maintenance. So the government started planning for that. And then slowly but surely, they started implementing it. If we look back now, 25 years later, we can see people got houses. People have electricity. People are actually treated more fairly than what they used to be. They've got access to education. So that from a government's point of view, they've invested to make sure that everyone's on the same line and gets equal treatment. But that didn't mean that there's shortages or trouble on the business front. Eskom couldn't provide all of that. And with a lack of maintenance at crucial times, we now sit with some of the results. We now sit with load shedding. So because of the high demand and not being able to meet it, now we're sitting in a predicament with, if we know that natural resources is scarcity and we have to manage it well. So that's one of the shortcomings of the growth of South Africa. So money was set aside to provide housing, to develop rural communities, to invest in them, to say this is how you do it, this is how you do it, let's invest, let's teach you how to create the business, be sustainable and grow as a country, because we as South Africa, we need to grow economically. There must be economic growth, and that means a country must produce more in the boundary of that country in 1 year than it did in the previous year. So the government really wants to invest. Why? If they produce more and there's more sales, that means there's more tax. The people live better lives. And that's what we're going to do in the following video on standard of living. So make sure you don't miss it. Spoiler alert. Alright. Here you can see a snippet in this slide of this expenditure with a massive focus on general services like executive and legislative services, also on research, other debt payments. So that's one of the big expenditure items. But you can see in second place, not far behind, is education. That they want to build schools, make sure there's teachers, resources for teachers, salaries, all of that. That's important for the government to make sure that their budget is aligned, because if they don't have the right amount, then they cannot actually fulfill their functions, right? That's a functional expense. So the influence on that, the minister always expands or explains in his budget speech, listen, this is our goals and this is what they want to achieve by adjusting their budget. They want to reduce unemployment. They want to develop skills. They want to increase interest rates, which is they want people to invest, because once you invest, you will get a higher return, and with investments, business can exceed and grow. They want to provide quality education so that people can be educated, have better skill levels, be more productive, get better jobs, and in this there's a whole economic growth cycle that happens. And they want to keep inflation low. At the bottom you'll see a link if you want to see what the government did, a business report. I thoroughly enjoyed that. But this is the last video. This is about the budget. This is about the impact of the budget on us as a country. I hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next video. Let's shift our education.